Hello, my name is Farrelly of D'Andrea Partners Legal Counsel, and today I'll be going through how to invest practical guide on the Sichuan business environment. Now, this video is part of a series of videos that we're doing for Southwest China, specific to this area, and how foreign investors may best place themselves within this region. Our previous video was in regards to the municipality of Chongqing, and now we'll be moving further west to the province of Sichuan. So just as a brief introduction in terms of the contents of our presentation today, of course, as with our previous video, we'll be looking at an overview of the business environment in Sichuan, and then looking at the specific advantages institutionally and through national initiatives which have driven investors into the province in recent years. In addition to which, we'll be then looking at the current situation for foreign investors in Sichuan, and then finally we'll wrap it up looking at some main aspects of note as well as some challenges that investors may have in the province. So, as you may know, you may not know, the province of Sichuan is, of course, in southwestern China, but it's also one of the largest provinces in China. And when we say a large province in China, of course, it's quite a massive area indeed. In fact, it's equivalent, the land mass, we'll say, is the equivalent of the size of the country of Spain in Europe or the state of California in America. So quite a large land mass indeed. And of course, with such a large land mass, the population is quite large as well. We have over 80 million people within Sichuan. Taking these two factors into consideration for foreign investors, such a large area and such massive population within the province, this equals, of course, a lot of different opportunities in terms of purchasing land for use, as well as a consumer base and a large potential labor force. These are some factors to consider prior to looking at an area for investment. Regarding investment, of course, Sichuan, with the growth of 8.2 in terms of its GDP last year, is ahead of the curve in terms of national GDP. So from this, we can gather that it's not only an area that's quite large, it's a large population, but of course, it's a growing area in terms of its economy. Speaking of its economy, one of its most, we'll say, prosperous areas is the capital city of Chengdu. Now, of course, the notable aspect of Chengdu that we'd like to point out is that it's connected to both Europe and Asia, as well as Africa, of course, through the Belt and Road Initiative. So this is something that we'll touch upon a little later in our presentation, but it's something to, of course, keep in mind for potential investors. Finally, as we mentioned previously, the GDP of Sichuan is growing, and it's also one of the largest nationwide in China. Now, this GDP is propped up, of course, with a large number of foreign direct investors, rather. We can see here that nearly half of Fortune 500 companies have already invested in the province of Sichuan. So we'll see the reason why this is over the next couple of slides. So of course, as I mentioned up top, the Belt and Road Initiative is a very expansive project by the Chinese government, reconnecting all trade routes, whether that be through Europe, Asia, or all the way towards Africa, which Sichuan finds itself in a very integral point. So Sichuan is connected to Europe, of course, via the Chengdu-Europe Express Railway, and is also connected to Asian countries, and mentioned on the slide there. So we'll see in terms of trade, logistical opportunities, as well as if potential investors have any concerns over their supply chain. This is an important aspect of note. Moving on to China's Western Development Initiative. This is again something that has been put in place for a little over 20 years now. So this initiative seeks to entice further investment in China's Western regions, whether that be through huge infrastructural investment or the enticement of foreign investors through more favorable tax policies or talent retention policies in terms of attracting higher level talents to the west of China. So this has, over the last 20 years, been very beneficial for all sorts of investors in Western China and more specifically Sichuan. So moving on to other notable advantages that Sichuan has, of course, through the Yangtze River economic belt, trade as well as transportation domestically is greatly facilitated through all the regions within this economic belt, and of course, Sichuan is part of this project. Finally, but last but not least, of course, we have the newly put in place Chengdu Chongqing Economic Circle. Now, this is another national initiative, has only been put in place in the last few months, was at the end of 2021. So it's a plan to create an economic cluster between Chengdu, the capital city of Sichuan, and Chongqing, the neighboring municipality, through various different means. We see here scientific and technological cooperation, information sharing through development zones, notable different financial services cooperation. We'll say it's quite extensive, and at this point of the initiative, it's really in its early years. So at this point, it's important to keep known, and moving forward, we should also take into consideration that foreign investment companies could be enticed greater with preferential policies, whether that be part of the construction of this economic circle or simply investing in the area which assists in build up. So from this point on, we'll keep an eye on it. Okay, so in terms of foreign investors currently situated in Sichuan, top locations, of course, are the capital city of Chengdu, with the distant second and third being Mianyang and Zhou. Regions which are most investing within Sichuan, we have the normal actors, of course, Hong Kong, BVI, Singapore, but more notably, we have Japan and America being investors in Sichuan. Now we can see that within the industries which are most prevalent for foreign capital in Sichuan, we have software and IT, which Japanese and American companies, of course, are quite well known. However, going outside of these more high-tech and technological companies, of course, in Sichuan, it's quite a large region, so there are areas where manufacturing, real estate, wholesale are more prevalent. So this is something that I want to really shine a light on here. Sichuan is quite a large region with hugely differing industries, and for any of FDI opportunities that you may seek in China, you're bound to find one area within Sichuan which is specifically favorable to your business. Keeping that in mind, in comparison to, we'll say, coastal cities or the eastern regions in China, there is a lower salary and expectation within these areas. So if you seek to retain or attract high-level talent to Sichuan, it could be a little more difficult in comparison. However, even in saying that, there is, in comparison to other areas in Western China, a relatively larger foreign talent pool, and there are very esteemed universities within Sichuan. So you may find that the people you're already looking for are in Sichuan already. And in terms of investment culture, I'll go back to the point of the capital city of Chengdu. In terms of these emerging industries, high-tech industries, and more software-based, there's very much a SME and startup culture within Chengdu. So if this is something which is relevant to your business, Chengdu could be the area to choose within Sichuan. So just some final thoughts. Sichuan, of course, diverse and large, and you may find the advantages that you seek within this province. And there's, of course, a lot of preferential policies prevalent in Sichuan due to already existing national initiatives or emerging ones. When we mentioned the Chongqing Chengdu Economic Circle, this is something that, of course, is still in its development stages. And of course, in terms of economically as well as culturally, Sichuan within China is quite important area. Of course, today we just touched on small tidbits of information in regards to the province of Sichuan and how to effectively invest within the province. However, through our practical guide, Invest in China, the Southwest, we've had more of a deep dive into legal, taxation, labor, and cultural considerations within the various different areas in the Southwest. This practical guide, of course, is available to our clients, friends, and through Amazon, of course, and all good ebook sites for your consideration. Now, of course, within DP Group, we not only have D'Andrea Partners legal counsel, but we also have 3 other service companies, such as PhD Advisory Tax and Accounting, which assists in financial services for foreign investors, Eastern Communication and Events, which is a marketing company for investors in foreign jurisdictions, and Chance and Better Education, which is an education consulting company for various different aspects in terms of university admissions, let's say internships, as well as language training. It's a very broad term of services.
So, I hope this information has been beneficial to you. Whether you are a potential investor looking at the Sichuan business environment or already an existing investor in Sichuan. This information is part of just a brief look at the Sichuan business environment. So for more detailed information or any queries you may have, feel free to contact us at our email address or on any of the social media platforms where we're based. Thank you for your time.